fiberglass type of the formworks, where the gap available is very small, where we had to go for very precise line and level. We go for this type of the say the formwork where the plastic member use, which is supported, which is basically reinforced with the fiberglass. Everybody use now, you know, the glass fibers are something like the colorless, very thin than your hairs, but have wonderful properties, also used commonly for what is called a rehabilitation and retrofitting of the structure. Now something like a fiber or reinforced concrete, fiber reinforced plastic has also occupied every walk of your life, right from your bikes right up to the aircraft. This is the common material. This is basically a composite material, to be honest, which are following this property. It is very lightweight, cost effective, which is very labor friendly. It's not heavy at all. It is versatile. We can deflect it. It is eco-friendly. And due to these major advantages, plastic or fiberglass formwork is also nowadays used. Now, let us come to the typical, say, assessment of the formwork. In the case of formwork, the major component which is of the utmost importance is nothing but the props. What is called a propping action, the members which are normally vertical or close to vertical, which are subjected to direct transmission of the load in the compression, also associated with the slightly buckling if they are very tall, and they must carry the load received from your, say, shuttering or any other type to the safe zone, to the safe platform, to the safe area or safe supporting member. It is not necessary that they will always transfer the load to Mother Earth or to the foundation. It may be on the higher story slabs also. But if you see the accidents in this particular formwork, out of this 95% accident of the formwork, as I said, they normally take place during the construction and 5% just after the completion. And out of this 95% accident that we see, they are basically due to the collapse of the formwork. But unfortunately, we don't pay attention mainly to the props. I'm not talking about the big companies, because big companies are taking very much care. They have their own safety team. They will check everything before they allow you to pour the concrete. I'm talking with you with the common practices adopted in the field, done by some regular conventional contractors, that too in the cities like B1 or B2 type of the cities. People don't pay more attention to the formwork. When I was in field, I had a very typical guru, I say, so Satyanarayanan, a typical Saudi man. He used to tell me that if you at all, Kumtekar, you want to check the formwork, don't check from the top. It is there, some junior supervisors and all, they will check the line, level and all. Basically, if you want to check the formwork, you have to stand at the bottom of the formwork and you have to look for the two things. One, when you see up, the sunlight must not be seen. This is the first precaution he told me. And second, see at the bottom how much wastage of that particular binding wire which is seen by you. You have to also take the right care to avoid it. These are the two things you must see before you approve the formwork for the concreting. Very typical words. I should not see the sunlight because sunlight indicates there is a gap. Through the gap, the paste will come out, and what remains at the top is nothing but a matrix of the aggregate without any binder. But the story that you see in the tier 2 and tier 3 places, tiers, cities or the towns is very absolutely hopeless. Where forget about that particular sunlight, it is likely that the person who is standing may come down. The simple answer given by that particular centering person, sir, will put that particular baton, will put that cartons of the beer, and they will have so many solutions. And that too, they will say confidently, sir, you are new in the business. We are doing it for the years together, decades together. We must appreciate their confidence. and these things lead to the accident, then nobody supports. My dear friends, my dear friend, I will show some of the example. Of course, this is one of the good picture I have collected where the plastic formwork, plastic I mean fiber reinforced plastics, which is commonly adopted in the field also. This is the picture from Delhi, wherein you find it is so light that handling becomes easy, it is versatile, and you can go for these type of finishes also. This is commonly used in the practice, but still it is not as that common like my one and all. Now, essential tips in the propping, kindly mind it well. Props must be properly inspected. Don't use the prop which is available with you. Most important, every prop you adopt in the field, it must have shoe plate or the blaze plate at the bottom, and it must have some type of head or coupler at the top. The perfect setting of the prop important. Even our basically pendol person knows that after every seventh wooden prop, he'll go for the bracing. But unfortunately, our field people don't understand. Bracing is the most mandatory. There must be a firm bearing. There must be lot of spreaders at the bottom. Otherwise, it will lead to what is called as punching shear failure. I will share some picture with you. And hence, just to go for the conclusion, in the case of the formwork, while designing, you keep two things in mind as a checklist. There must be safe working condition for the workman and adequate design and construction to ensure safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One, strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. one strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. This is the checklist. This is the checklist. One strength of the material, sequence of the pour, basically dimension, pocket and construction joint, shoring basing, and most important is the safe bearing capacity, safety of the structure during that particular pouring. As I said, the load coming at that time of pouring is the maximum in the life cycle of that particular member. Drop it from 1 meter, you can understand, you can calculate how much force, how much impact will come on the props or the centering and shuttering, and it will create a problem of line and level. Let me share one more important aspect, hipping of the concrete. Normally it is end of the construction, the last part of any building. You can find out it's nothing but to cover the what is called as your staircase well by a slab, which is a very small, hardly 2.4 meters, almost say 3 meters by 3 meters or 4 meters, with a thickness not more than 12 to 13 centimeters. If you calculate the volume of the concrete, you need hardly 5 to 6 bags to complete that particular concreting. Normally, the owner has also lost almost all money. The centering person says, "Sir, why to go for the mixer? I will do the concreting. Only allow me to take the dead material, that is nothing but a coarse aggregate, fine aggregate and all at the top, rather the early night, early evening. Tomorrow I will come, I will just open that cement bag and put the concrete. Within no time will finish. Why to spend for the mixer?" Naturally, owner accepts because he'll also now his money or his basically chest is almost without any money, and then he goes for it. I'll show you the picture and you can understand what is the effect of it. And at last, as I said, most important checklist for the de-shuttering. The sequence of the de-shuttering is the most important. Shuttering of the stripping has to be very, very perfect. Otherwise, everything will be put to dog. I have seen many times early stripping or without stripping, without taking proper care. What is the stripping? It is nothing but you need a gap, you apply the leverages and then you remove. While applying the leverages, surface of the concrete get damaged many times. This is the very common story and hence you have to take care. Let us go for these pictures. This is the example of properly planned formwork. Looks to be more complicated. This is the cantilever type of the bracket, which is coming out as the chhajja, basically a portion of the balcony or basically a canopy where the people can move. You will find a lot of these type of the connections. Many people will comment why it is required, why it is so heavy and all. The thing is, structure will not collapse so easily. The formwork will not come down so easily. It will give you so many signals and warning. Only thing, you must have enough experience to notice and basically act accordingly. But there is a lot of noise, there is a lot of movement. Many times people may not understand. Then we have to take care what is basically providing the additional members like this. So if one breaks, another member is there to take care. Another member is doing to take care. And even though this is slightly costly, definitely if I compare the cost of the life or the cost of the labors or life, and basically the stigma which is going to which is going to be over there for you if some failure take place, this is nothing. And these redundant actions which are provided, redundant members which are provided over here will take care. They will give you a lot of signal, enough time to escape from this disease structure, and so that you can save your life and basically the lives of people who are working. And that is why there must be some redundant members which are also required in the form of lacing and battening to see that the structure will not collapse, the formwork will not collapse during what is called as pouring or during the concreting. This is something I really believe in God, my dear friends. I always believe that God is there to take care of the engineer or the consultant and all. Before you go to site, I always observe this particular picture. I am also a student of IIT Bombay. I learned engineering from many big professors, even at Karad and IIT. But how the load transfer mechanism is taking place, still I have not known at all. You can find these props. You can find this particular supporting member having multifacial changes, and basically in all the three axes that they are rotating. This is the better picture, my dear friends. I am showing you just to tell you how the structures are really casted. In the places like Karad, this prop is never coming to an end. इथपर्यंत prop नसतोच. हा prop तो इथंच कुठंतरी संपतो. हा prop इथंच कुठंतरी संपतो. And then the prop is connected by a plate. त्याला खाली एक काही लाकडी फळी लावतात and they are connected by two nails. दोन खिळे त्याच्यावर संपणारा हा prop आणि हे दोन खिळे. And one more beauty, this plate, wooden plate, is also not resting on the ground. This is resting on the pair of the bricks just to adjust the line and level of the slab. आता ह्याच्या पुढे जगात देव आहे नाही तर काय तुम्ही म्हणाल. तो prop, if the height is hardly 10 feet or 9 feet, the prop is of 7 feet only. There is the plank or there is the fully which is connected by the two nails, and that particular plate or wooden plate is resting on the pair of the bricks. This is the sequence of the load transmission. If I tell the people why you are going for this is very risky. He said, sir, you are new in the field. I am working this field for 25 years. I have listened this answer many times when I was working as the consultant. You have to see that a small crack which is developed in the brick, because the brick is made up of brittle material only. It has a lot of carbonate, calcites and all. So when there is a pressurized, when there is the what is called as knife-like loading, this is going to crack, this whole prop is going to come down, the whole shuttering is part of the shuttering is going to come down. Even you apply the Leyland and Tata jacks, you cannot bring the line and the level of the slab to its original position. Only solution which is adopted, go for the plastering. The thickness of the plaster is so large in such area to manage the level. As I said, you are going to invite the problem. Don't adopt these type of the strategies at all. Don't try to save in this particular way. You are going to invite your own death. This is the only thing I can tell you from my experiences. This is one more problem. I always ask my friend, I always ask my centering person, if this is the prop, prop must rest at the center of the shoe plate. Yala manta shoe plate, yala manta base plate. It must place at the center so that if the load is there, it will not penetrate into the soil, it will not penetrate into supporting strata, and there won't be a punching shear failure. My dear friend, the intention was by putting the shoe plate, the load will be distributed to larger area and punching shear will not take place. But what happened? He has followed my instruction. He has followed my instruction, but instead of placing the prop exactly at the center of the plate, he has placed at the edge. He has placed at the edge, that too with the support of couple of nails like this. काय होईल? जे काही झालं नसतं तरी चाललं असतं, पण असं केल्यामुळं द ऍक्सिडेंट इज 100% शुअर. when the load will come at this particular end, the face of this plate will be lifted, everything will slip down, and this is nothing but a failure of the structure. It is you are inviting death, you are digging your own grave. That is the only thing I can share. This is another picture, my dear friends, I like to share with you. Mainly in the area like Karad, Satara, Sangdi and all, Nagar and all also, there are a lot of sugarcane. The people are having enough money. They want to go for a good bungalow. This is also one of the good sign. But what is the story? Normally their bungalow hall is having double height. Normally 6 meters or 20 feet or something. At the 3 meters level, they will take out the balcony, which is called as overlooking balcony, something like a cantilever. The basic function is that they can choose, they can decide whether to allow the person to come in or to meet the gentleman or just to send a message through his basically peon or basically supporting staff ki sahib gharamadhe nahi hai. This is a very simple thing, so that to generate the importance and all. This is a wonderful thing that he expects a good bungalow, a good hall with a height of 6 meters, 20 feet. But unfortunately, the centering material available with me is like this. That prop not going for the, forget about 20, even not up to the 10 feet level. They are supported by the planks and bricks. They put one more array of the wooden plates on which they will go for the second assembly like this. It is something castle of that your cards, castle of the card pack. त्यातला एक जरी मेंबर हल्ला एक कुठलाही एक्स किंवा वायला, you are very sure that the whole system will come down. And this is how the people are working, and still constructions are going on. They are not understanding, or they are doing deliberately, I don't know. But the cost of this, if the accident takes place, is very enormous, very high. You cannot just think of it. This is another problem I told you, that heaping or basically concentrated loads. What happens? This is the formwork, wonderful formwork, which is basically for what is called as the your staircase well roof. The width may be hardly 2.4 to 2.5 meters. This is the length very close to 3 meters, depending upon whether you want to use for storing your water tanks and all. What happens? The person, the centering people will make a heap, make a load of what is called as aggregates. Under this situation, this will definitely go under compression. This may be under compression or maybe neutral condition, but definitely this prop, which is supposed to carry the compression load, will be subjected to tension. And whenever they start putting the load after the mixing due to their movement, that basically due to their what are called vibrations and definitely due to impacts, the verticality of this prop will be lost. It will go under the sway condition and a horizontal slab will become inclined. This is purely due to not understanding how the structural will behave when it is subjected to heavy point loads, or basically what are called as the concentrated loads at one point. This is the picture I want to show to you, my dear friends. These are the props. These props must have this type of the plate, which is called a shoe plate. What happens? Deliberately the contractor avoids, you can see the quality of the concrete at the bottom. It is newly placed PCC. What happens? He will deliberate, or he will try to save, and he will try to put similar type of the prop, but without base plate at this location. Whenever the concrete is continued, whenever this prop is subjected to loading, as the prop is open, as the prop is basically having a sharp edge, it will penetrate into the concrete, which is not enough, having the enough strength to resist this type of the punching, and the level of that particular portion of the slab will be totally different than other one. People will try to put it by pushing it, giving the lift to it. But where you take it from me, my dear friends, the concrete will never gain the natural line or the level you expect. You have to just adjust it using the plaster. This is called a punching of the holes into concrete. Just to avoid this type of the plate, they feel it is the extra cost. But if you compare the cost of making the things good, it is peanut for them, but unfortunately they don't understand. These are the major causes of the failures, my dear friends. Kindly go through them, and just check with yourself whether you follow, whether you pay more attention to this. Let me share, there are so many things, but as far as I am concerned, I'm going to rather give the focus only on the point number 3. It is the human error. Many times negligence, and most of the times overconfidence. Sir, I am doing it for n number of years. Why you are giving us this suggestion? This is the first thing. I will leave the job to some of my juniors without taking into consideration its importance, called as negligence. And sab chalta hai. This is the common tendency called as the error, which are the 3 reasons for the failures of the structure. And another one, I have given you the example of load concentration due to the heaping of the concrete. Just to highlight another some important parameters, sinking of the support due to the SPC, say bearing capacity, settlement of existing structure. I'll show some of the wonderful things I noticed at the site. As I said, I don't want to take any chance regarding of the deflection of that particular, say your shuttering. So I asked my supervisor to see that this particular prop must be put in the right spirit, right location, right support. In no case it should be subjected to punching shear. It should not deflect. He got the idea. He just attended my first part. In no case it should dislocate. He has put that particular thing, the similar type of the channel, but instead of putting in this way, he has adopted this strategy. What happened? The sectional modulus, the moment of inertia, whatever concept you know, you'll find lot of changes, BDQ by 12. Here something, whatever you choose. Here this was the D. Here this is the D. Accent zara nasta to hoil. This is something people don't know, understand the structural behavior of this also, and then you are going for invited problems. This is another example people must understand, my dear friends, those who are working with the pre-stressed structures. This is a wonderful type of the formwork. Perfect prop, shoe plate at the bottom, then another supporting plate at the top. Everything is having this type of the lacing, this type of the bracing. Everything is perfect. The concrete is poured, the concrete is functioning well. Then they started what is called as the pre-stressing. You understand the concept of pre-stress? Where we provide the tension in the tendons, naturally it will provide a compression in the concrete member. The member which was perfectly horizontal has now taken the shape of a bow. It has taken basically what is called as concavity inside and convexity outside. Naturally, the contact of this prop, and this prop is lost. In fact, it is subjected to tension, and the whole load came on only on the ultimate prop, this prop and this prop. While designing the props, if you don't observe, if you don't understand the nature of the behavior of the structure and the load transfer mechanism before and after the pre-stressing, you are going to invite the problem, because if you don't design these properly, they will carry the huge load for which they are not designed, and that geometry of that member is not sufficient. Naturally, the failure may take place. And hence, it is my earnest request to all the delegates, you please understand the structural behavior before, after, during, and then design your formwork system so that the collapses and the accidents will not take place at site. And this is the last picture from my site only. My dear friends, it is almost 6:30 evening. I am also equally tired as the manager, as the supervisor. There is one bag load that एका पोत्याचं कॉन्क्रीट त्या मिक्सरमध्ये फिरत असतं. तो सुपरवायझर मला येतो माझ्याकडे, सर आता काय करायचं म्हणलं, लेबरही कंटाळलेत, कॉन्क्रीटचं काय करू मी. माझं उत्तर असतं, डाल दे कल देखेंगे. दिस इज दॅट कल देखेंगे. It is my request, my dear friends, let the concrete go west. You use that concrete to make that particular concrete blocks for the reinforcement. But for the God's sake, don't place the concrete in the forms which are not having these type of the stoppages or which cannot be compacted. The stoppages and compaction is of the utmost importance. Otherwise, tomorrow when you'll open that particular face, the face will have these type of a shearing plane, failure plane, weaker plane, and the upper part, as it is sloping under this angle of repose or angle, I would say, under the action of the gravity, you will find this is totally honeycomb. If at all I want to make it good, I have to do this type of the chipping, what is seen over here, or I have to take a lot of precaution using some epoxies and all I have to grout. And then if not, this will become a gateway of India, and through which all the unwanted agencies will start peeping and lead to the cancer, which is called as the corrosion. And hence, if you remember my first slide, now the structure needs to be a durable one, sustainable one. We cannot play with the quality, and hence, for God's sake, don't try to go for the pouring of the concrete in the forms where the stoppers are not there, or where you are not in position to take the proper care about the compaction. Otherwise, this is the horrible scenario you can see at the site. Let us go for the one more technique, one more advancements which have really changed the world. After this type of the formworks which we have discussed, they are called as the stationary formworks. But nowadays, these stationary formworks are now replaced some 15-20 years back by a technique which is called a jump form technique, wherein from the location X, Y, after some time, the formwork used to occupy the position X1, Y1 after one typical time span, which was called a jump form techniques. But they were not that successful. And now we go for the formwork where it is not stationary at all. The formwork is moving in one direction with some predetermined speed, and the concrete pouring is continuously continued from the other direction. It means formwork is not stationary. There is nothing like the connecting the formwork, pouring the concrete, waiting for the 2 days, de-shutter, again go for the new lift and all. That concept has gone. Now the formwork is moving in one direction, normally vertical direction. In the last 10 years, it has started working in the horizontal directions only. Maybe for tower, chimneys, cooling towers, ESR, bridge piers, silos. When the geometrical shape is fixed, known, and there is no scope for intermediate, unfortunate, unplanned stoppages, this technique is very, very commonly adopted. But the thing is, it is not that suitable for a small structures unless this is economical. This is when the benefit cost ratio is normally manageable, when the structure is having height more than 30 meters or so, the slipform technology is the wonderful solution. Basically, the jointless solution you can think of, which is called as slipform technology. My dear friends, in the last 10 years, as I said, it is used for the road construction also. And that is why if you see the construction of the new national highways or the expressways or even the what is called as the widening of the NH4 or widening of the national highways or the state highways, this technique is commonly adopted. When we were in the field just for the road construction, why road? Even for the industrial pavement construction, you need more than 25 to 30 laborers. In the case, the construction used to be in the alternate bays, and basically these bays were constructed in such a way that after one bay, you have to go for the cleaning, stripping, go for the next type of the bed. The dowels and that particular tie bars are not properly placed, not connected, and ultimately the load transfer mechanism, action transfer mechanism is not properly transferred, and unevenness, the quality of the riding was a great problem. But now you move on your expressway Pune to Mumbai, you'll find wonderful road quality, very, very durable. Problems of that particular this is not there, and hence you can go for this type of technologies now, which are called as slipform technologies. Let us go more details about it. It is a simple definition of the slipform. It is a continuously moving form with such a speed adjustable that when the concrete which is poured and when it is exposed has already achieved enough strength to withstand the upper load, and that is why this is the simple picture. I'll share both the type of the formworks. One is the horizontal slip form, which is used for the road, and second is the vertical slip form used for the chimneys or the what called as your cooling towers and all. This is the thing. Let us go for the vertical slip form first. It is not the new concept at all. In India, it was used in their 1987-88 first time by Hindustan Construction for the construction of the Tata Power Trombay thermal project plant chimney, having the height of 275 meters. They could complete in the 9 months' time. Mainly used for, as I said, for silos, pylons, basically for the cooling towers. This is very commonly adopted. Basically, the rate of pouring is adjusted in such a way that normally at every stroke, the height of the formwork is increased by 0.2 to 0.3 meters per hour. That means in a day, in India, we can go average for 4 to 4.5 meters. Western countries is almost equal to 6 meters, with the period reduction in the time span is almost equal to 30%. These are the simple steps. Just it is the animation for your own adjustment. This particular formwork is really moving in the upward direction. It always consists of 3 types of the platform. The upper platform, which is used for the labor force who is pouring the concrete using either the placer boom, either using the concrete pump as the case may be. The middle platform, which is normally called an engineer's platform, where engineers like you and me will be standing. It will check the alignment, it will check the line, it will check the inclination, it will check the thickness, everything. So all the engineering operations and controlling operations are done at the middle platform, and this is called a suspended platform, also called a hanging platform, where these technicians will add any type of the gadgets. Normally in the case of chimney, they need sensors. In the case of in the case of pharmaceutical industry, they need another type of the sensors for the quality monitoring and all. In the case of cement industry, they use normally the X-ray diffraction techniques to collect the materials and all. They need different type of the electrical or electronic or the gadgets. that thing will be placed by the at the third tier. In other words, the slip form consists of the three tiers: upper tier for the worker tier, middle tiers for the engineers tier, where all the controls are established, and the suspension is to fit the various gadgets. Just to tell you same thing, you'll find the information about the top deck, intermediate deck, it also called a tier, the lower deck for the masons or basically for the gadget fitting. In old days, we used to check the plumb to check the vertical alignment. It is now practical and obsolete technology. Normally, we never go for what is called as your plumb. It is now used by guided laser beam where accuracy is very, very high. Even in the case of tunneling, we used to give the line out when I was in the field 30 years back using the distomats or the typical the 1 second theodolite that too at midnight or so, because the glare and all this type of the images, they could be easily managed. Take a simple needle, hold a candle at the back, so we could give the perfect line out for the tunnel. Nowadays it is very simple technology. पण चेष्टेनं म्हणायचे ना, दोन साईडनं टनेल काढला की दोन्ही फेसेस निघून जातात. हा चेष्टेचा विषय सोडून द्या. Now the accuracy is almost equal to 1 mm in 1 kilometer. That is the level where which we are working thanks to this laser guided technology, where the chances of the loss of alignment and verticality is almost zero. This is another. You just go for the section. This is the supporting members for that vertical slip form. This is basically what is called as the working deck. You will find this animated person is pouring that particular concrete. The third is the hanging scaffolding, which is there for the rendering operation. This particular gentleman can operate the screw, which is maintain the radius, maintain basically wall thicknesses, maintain vertically adjusting the inclination, because at the height of 200 meters, 300 meters, there are assembly of the jacks you will find over here. But even there are a lot of assembly of the jacks, lot of quality monitoring and all the jacks which are 25, 26, even 100, depending upon the volume to be covered, they cannot act uniformly. There may be some type of the problem, and hence at every level, there is some check list is provided. If it is not matched, these are the controls which are required to be adjusted manually by this engineer which is standing. Then basically turnbuckles which are here there to abut the pressures on this particular yellow slip form. Otherwise, when the concrete is poured, the concrete will slip through these gaps. To avoid, we provide the what is called a turnbuckle, jala Marathi मध्ये शिखंचा म्हणता. So it will hold the concrete in position. Basically, the lifting yoke yellow, which will go on lifting when I provide the strokes. These are the jacks which are used for the lifting devices, and then remaining part is reinforcement which is coming in. This is the simple assembly of what is called as your vertical slip form technology. My dear friend, it looks simple like this. This is the actual picture. This is the first thing, which is where the line, level, position, everything is to be given by you only. You means the person like you and me who are the actual project engineers for that job. Once if you commit a mistake here, the mistake will be repeated, because the slip form is something like a slave. Some form is something like a jinn. Whatever orders you give, it will automatically follow. And hence, even though technology is developed like anything, even though we have so many artificial intelligence and so many technologies, you can take it from me, my dear friends. Engineers of the brains of civil engineers cannot be replaced. because whatever you want to provide, the training sets are to be established by you only, with lot of references in all the 8 directions, because as you go up, you have to check everything with respect to minimum 3, the guidelines or points which are fixed by you on the ground. This is the second stage. Third stage and fourth stage. At every stage, you will go for the 3 tiers: upper tier, middle tier, and the lower tier. Upper tier for pouring the concrete, middle tier for engineering operation, and lower tier for what is called as your supporting or finishing. The stoppages is the great problem in the case of slip form. I have worked with this. It is a 24/7 job. You cannot go for the stoppages unless and until they are planned in advances. Unstoppages are very risky, and it is something like a sugar industry stop in between. It will lead to so many problems. Jack rods get bent because stoppage will not be so smooth. It will have some type of the lateral thrust. Concrete plates, and you have to remove the upper part of the concrete. Many times hoist may fail. Any reason may be there, but this is very risky. It is going to create a problem. The one of the major thing, the act of the God, which is beyond anybody's control. But due to these reasons, you may come across the stoppages. But otherwise, if you take proper care, if you maintain proper sequencing, proper corrections at every stage, unforeseen stoppages can be avoided, and they are very risky also, costly also. The basic purpose of the slip form to reduce the time is lost. These are the foreseen stoppages, which are planned stoppages. They are required for some different issues like the extension of jacks, electrical conduit continuation, and so this is okay. Then and otherwise, this becomes a very issue. Another important issue is about the safety provisions. You cannot take a call. Take the example of 275-meter chimney. Take the example of 275-meter chimney, my dear friend, is almost equal to 90+ story building. There must be safety provisions, because you'll always understand you are always comfortable to work at the ground level. If you are placed at some height, you'll be always having a fear about that is called as the height phobia, position phobia. Same thing is there in the case of vertical slip forms also. Providing the railing, nylon netting, then lift for the passenger and movement. It's perfect operation, voice communication facility, safety gadgets are required to be provided. Otherwise, you cannot expect the same speed and efficiency. My dear friends, let's go for the last part of my presentation, which is called as horizontal slip form, which is now in existence for almost last decade. Slip form initially started at 88 for the vertical. Now it is commonly used for the horizontal slip forms also, mainly for the rigid pavement construction. It is also called as the sensor. It is basically sensor slip form paver techniques, where the sensor is there who will take care of everything. Let us see the actual details of it. It is basically a system which is almost 100% automation. Hardly 5-6 labor can easily take care of it with one wonderful who are called as the paver operator. It will go for basically keeping the concrete in jolting condition, which is called as fresh condition. Then maintain the proper thicknesses, remove that bigger size of the aggregate from the top. Otherwise, due to abrasive action, due to the scooping action, the big piece of the aggregate will come out of the concrete. It will create a gap, as if in the case of old mosaic, marble mosaic tile, that was the common problem. Those who are associated with the marble mosaic tiling, that was the common problem, because the marble chips, marble pebbles used to come out of that matrix of the concrete or the cement mortar. It was giving you odd finish. similar type of the thing will take place. It will have its own adoption of the leveling, compacting, and everything. So it is as good as couple of people are managing the show. We go for 100 meters together a day without any joint or without any type of the construction problem. Let us see this particular part in detail. These are the components. Auger, which is basically used to keep the fresh concrete in fresh condition, because concrete is brought to the site using your transit mixers or basically agitators also. It will keep in the agitating condition, fresh condition. As it is a sensor paver, extra concrete is not permitted. Normally, this is used in the case of PQC, also pavement quality concrete, where the thickness of the concrete may range between 45 centimeter to 60 centimeters, depending upon what are called as axle loads. So it will maintain the perfect thickness, because even 1 centimeter more than the expected one, if you take the length of kilometers, there will be loss of huge concrete. The contact will suffer a great loss, and hence this is now sensors are used, which is called as strike-off plates. Vibrator, as you know better, there is a battery of vibrators, series of vibrators, 12, 13 vibrators operating in a row. The operator has an ability to increase the distance or increase the depth, reduce the depth, reduce the spacing, increase the spacing depending upon it, to avoid the problem of extra vibration, or which may lead to the problem of segregation. Then there is a tamper plate, as I said, to avoid the appearance of the big piece of the aggregate at the top. Profile, which will maintain the alignment in the longitudinal lateral direction, and basically a track on which this particular system is placed. This is the cross section. This is the freshly placed brought concrete from the RMC plant. This auger will maintain it fresh. The strike-off plate will always maintain the perfect thickness. The vibrator, which is in perpendicular to the plane of this particular screen. The tamper plate will see that the aggregate will never come at the top. This is the maintenance for the alignment in this lateral longitudinal direction and lateral direction. And a whole this system is moving with reference to the lines which are called as string lines. These are the pictures, my dear friends. These are the lines which are called as string lines, which are to be set by you only, using your total station, using your any type of the distomats, any type of the surveying instruments. You have to also provide the reference points at the regular interval so that the engineers can take a check. Then you have to place your, say, your paver, which is called as the sensor paver, exactly at the center of the road. Once you do this, your operation is over. Rest of the things will take care by this. Let us see its operation. This is the cross section. This is the string line which is put by you, which is taken as the guideline. This is the elevation sensor, so exact thickness of the concrete will be checked. This is the alignment sensor, which will move exactly along with the string line. This is, you'll find that particular conveyor which is bringing the concrete at the front. This is the simple assembly. You'll find hardly 2 or 3 people operating this particular job. This is that placer, as I said, which is bringing the concrete. This is the spreading by the plow. This particular member moves this and this direction. So concrete is placed in the working condition, fresh condition. Setting is prohibited. Concrete properties are not disturbed. This is the battery of the vibrators. It's not a single vibrator. And you'll find the thickness of the vibrator, depth of the vibrator, spacing of the vibrator can be adjusted so that every piece, every part of the concrete is vibrated, consolidated, and compacted so that the quality of the concrete, the density of the concrete, and durability of the concrete is ensured. Then we go for the dowel bar. I hope everybody knows when we move from one section to another section along the length of that particular road, we insert the dowel bar to continue the action, continue that particular forces from one plane to another plane, one plate to another plate of the concrete. In old days, when we were doing the job, we used to put the holes. do the formwork. We used to apply the grease on the exposed part. We used to cover with the cloth. And whenever the next portion is started, we used to remove and do that operation. But the grip with the bonding was not properly ensured, and which were defeating the purpose of defeating the load transfer mechanism of the rigid pavements. This is done automatically. Next picture will help you. This particular bar is dowel bar. At regular interval, this machine will place into the concrete, saying the bonding is perfect. The same story for the bars in the other direction, lateral direction, which is called as the tie bar. And hence, whatever technique we were using in the old days for alternate bays and all, that is now not required. This is now possible with the help of this type of the formwork, which is called a horizontal slip formwork. You know the concept. In the case of old days also, when the people were using the shahbad and other type of the floor, we used to do the polishing because the surface of that particular tile was rough. The same thing is over here. The concrete surface is very crude, very rough. If we allow to fly the vehicles on this type of the naked surface, within no time, your tires will become hot and burst. It will become flat, and hence the initial texturing, finishing is required to be provided to make this concrete rough surface of the concrete smooth. Similarly, we go for the texture machines. If I make it very smooth, if you move on your Pune-Mumbai expressway, at number of location you find the road is skiddy, drive cautiously. रस्ता गुळगुळीत आहे, जपून वाहनं चालवा असं पावसाळ्यात हलकात नोटीस असते. Because the concrete, if I make it very smooth, the tires will lose the grip on the road. Similarly, as you move on your staircases, at the end of that particular every step, you'll have typical lines which are required to ensure that your foot grip is perfect on that particular slide. Similarly, the smooth surface is removed, extra smoothness removed, and we provide some type of the checkered, some type of the circle, some type of the geometry, so that the vehicle will not lose its grip on that particular, say what is your pavement, and it can move comfortably. Riding quality will be also okay. It is done by texturing machine. One more thing, as we know, the concrete needs curing, basically to ensure that every particle of the cement is hydrated. We normally go for the different ways of curing like ponding and all. But for the highways and all which are exposed to atmosphere, curing should be started at the right time and it should be properly done. Nowadays, people go for curing compound spraying, which is also done automatically. But because this is very thin elastic membrane, which will not allow the internal water which is locked in the body of the concrete to come out and get evaporated to atmosphere. It will undergo the process of what is called as what is basically called as the cooling, basically called as condensing, and the same water will be used for completing the process of hydration. Unfortunately, unfortunate part in our area, just after the curing compound is sprinkled, some good gentleman will bring the truck on that and basically it will rupture and the basic purpose is lost. But even though this is an unfortunate part, this machine has capability to sprinkle the curing, and then after this is over, now manually you have to go for the groove cutting so that you have to allow the warping of the concrete or allow the expansion of the concrete. You may go for the 40 mm, 25 mm gap depending upon thickness. Fill with the non-shrinkable type of the sealant which will take care against the warping of the concrete, and hence the pavement will function properly. And then seal with the wonderful, say, silicone sealant. In old days, we were using that particular, say tar and basically risers. But nowadays, wonderful sealant are available. You'll find the concrete, the pavement, rigid pavement will serve you for a very long time if you adopt this particular technology. This is the fastest way of constructing using the formwork in operating in now the horizontal directions also. These are the major advantages. Seamless construction, basically good speed, good quality, labor, the speed is very high, and hence now in the case of the contracts like BOT and all, you can very well go for the better quality assurance. Cost of maintenance is almost a zero, and hence if you see nowadays on every national highway expressway, you'll find this type of the technologies commonly adopted. So this was something, the discussion about the advancements in the concrete, say, formwork. We have seen basically the journey from the timber, which is now age-old, obsolete, right up to the moving formwork, which are called as slip form technology. It is now a common thing adopted in the developing country like India also. And I'm very sure the changes, the developments in the cement technology, concrete technology, using these type of the gadgets which are supported by the mechanical industry, like what is called a slip form, we can have wonderful durable construction which will be change the scenario of India, and I'm very sure it will become the powerful country, powerful nation among the world. Thank you, Dr. Randive, Dr. Gayatri, Dr. Vasudha, and the madam for giving me an opportunity. Whatever from field I have tried to share. If you have any questions, you are free. And basically, I'm very sure that whatever little I know, if I know it, I'll give the answer. If not, I will study and give the answer. Again, very much thankful for the listening, the patient listening from all the delegates. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry I crossed the time limit. I was expected to finish by 11:30, but slightly during the course of discussion, I continued. I had taken half an hour more than the planned one. Very sorry for that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Due to limitation of Google Meet app, the participants will mail the question to your email ID. Will convey your email ID to all the participants. Now I will directly continue the vote of thanks. I, Dr. Vasudha Katale, Adjunct Faculty COEP, would like to thank Dr. M.B. Kuntekar, sir, for such an informative and wonderful session. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. I would like to thank our director, Dr. B.P. Ahuja, sir, for giving us opportunity to carry out the webinar. Our head of the department, Dr. M.S. Randive, sir, for all the support and encouragement. Next, I would like to thank Civil Engineering Department faculty members for the support. MTech first year and second year students of construction management. And last but not the least, all the participants for showing your interest in the webinar and for the huge response. Tomorrow we'll meet at the same time, that is 10 a.m. On the same platform, that is Google Meet. Till then, have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank
you. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
अरे नमस्कार, तुम्हाला संधी दिल्याबद्दल रणबीर साहेब आम्ही आभारी आहे तुमचा, तुमच्या कॉलेजचा, तुमच्या डिपार्टमेंटचा.
तुमचं कॉलेज आहे, तुमचं डिपार्टमेंट आहे.
थँक्यू फॉर द लव्ह अँड फेथ शोन ऑन मी. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच. सगळ्यांना नमस्कार करू माझा.
थँक्यू. थँक्स अ लॉट.
थँक्यू.
थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.
Thank you, sir.